Hello and welcome to World Stories on Viewer Television. I am Deborah Ndakaife. Over the week has been top stories making the rounds across the globe. Let's take a look at these stories to keep you updated on the events and happenings from African and international scenes. Major headlines in the week under review includes the occurrence of a natural disaster causing a death toll in Congo. Also, the ongoing crisis in which warring parties had signed a commitment to respect humanitarian principles, and Israel has assassinated the commander of Islamic Jihad's rocket launch forces. Let's go on a short break, and when we come back, What Close continues. Now, starting from the African scene, the death toll from the flooding in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo crept higher as aid workers found more bodies among the muddy devastation, and wounded residents succumbed to their injuries in an under-equipped local clinic. Now, the floods in a remote mountainous area of South Kivu province ripped through the riverside villages of Yakumbi and Bushushu 5 days ago, razing houses, destroying crops, and killing more than 400 people. Survivor Paul Shushago was still searching for the bodies of two family members, digging with a spade in the mud and debris that reached halfway up the doorway of their home in Yakumbi. The scale of destruction has highlighted the vulnerability of people to climate change in many parts of Africa, where poor urban planning and weak infrastructure means communities often cannot withstand increasing bouts of extreme weather. United Nations Human Rights Council, acting on the request of Germany and other countries, hold a special session due to the ongoing fighting in Sudan. The purpose of the meeting is to condemn the violence and to insist on the observance of human rights and international humanitarian law, diplomatic sources said. However, many countries are opposed in principle to addressing problems in individual countries since they regard these as interference in internal affairs. It is therefore unclear whether a planned resolution would receive the necessary majority in the Council, which has 47 member countries. Fighting first broke out in Sudan in mid-April after a long simmering power struggle erupted between the de facto president Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his deputy Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, who heads the paramilitary RSF. The United Nations estimates that more than 700,000 people have been displaced by the conflict.
I strongly condemn this wanton violence in which both sides have trampled international humanitarian law, notably the principles of distinction, proportionality, and precaution.
Still on Sudan conflict, warplanes roared overhead as explosion rocked Khartoum on Friday, just hours after Sudan's warring party signed a commitment to respect humanitarian principles in the spiraling conflict without a truce in sight. Nearly 1 month after the outbreak of the fighting that has killed more than 750 people and displaced hundreds of thousands, the two sides signed the agreement late Thursday during talks in the Saudi city of Jeddah. But already by the next morning, the situation on the ground appeared unchanged, with the forces of two rival generals again exchanging fire in the Sudanese capital, which is home to 5 million people. Envoys in Jeddah representing the two generals, Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and paramilitary commander Mohamed Daglo, agreed to affirm the commitment to ensure that civilians are protected at all times. The agreement commits both sides to let in badly needed humanitarian assistance after looting and attacks targeting aid in the impoverished country, Africa's third largest in the area. Mauritanians voted on Saturday in the first legislative and local elections since 2019, when President Mohamed Ghazouani came to power in a litmus test for the veteran leader ahead of next year's presidential vote. Ghazani, who has overseen the West African country's relative stability in the violence-racked Sahel, is widely expected to seek re-election next year, though he has not confirmed his plans. His El Insaf party is favored to win among the 25 parties vying for the backing of around 1.8 million voters, who are set to choose 176 members of parliament, as well as 15 regional councils and 238 municipal councils. There are sneaking queues outside polling stations in the capital, Nouakchott. After casting his vote, Said Mustafil Nilit 40 said he wanted change and hoped the new parliament brings new blood into governance. Israel has assassinated the commander of Islamic Jihad's rocket launch forces in the Gaza Strip in an overnight airstrike, dampening hopes of a swift ceasefire as fighting continued for a third day. The Israeli military said it targeted Ali Ghali, the Islamic Jihad commander, inside a safe house in a pre-dawn airstrike that has also killed two other militants from the same group. His death was also confirmed in a statement by Islamic Jihad, the second largest militant group in the Gaza Strip. It came as officials in Gaza said that 25 Palestinians had been killed by Israelis' airstrikes so far and 76 people wounded. The Israeli attack on Gali was carried out despite reports on Wednesday night of both sides nearing an agreement on a ceasefire. Another 4 Palestinians were killed in the besieged Gaza Strip in renewed Israeli airstrikes as 2 other Palestinians were announced dead during a raid by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank. Palestinians are bracing for further violence a day after Israeli airstrikes killed 15 people in Gaza, including children and 3 leaders from the Islamic Jihad movement, with more strikes expected soon. Israel has also evacuated people from towns surrounding Gaza after Palestinian groups vowed to avenge the Israeli airstrikes. The PIJ fired rockets into Israel last week following the death of one of its activists in the West Bank. Kader Adnan died in Israeli custody after spending more than 80 days on hunger strike. At least 13 Palestinians, including 3 commanders of the militant group Islamic Jihad, have been killed in Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. Palestinian health officials said 8 women and children were among the dead. Another 20 people were injured. Israel said it had launched an operation targeting militants who posed an imminent threat to its citizens. Islamic Jihad has vowed revenge, and Gaza-based militants are expected to respond with rocket fire into Israel. The strikes were the deadliest since 3 days of fighting between Israel and Islamic Jihad last August. The Gaza Health Ministry said 4 children and 4 women were among those killed. Half of the injured were women and children, and several were in a critical condition in hospital, it added. Now, as Russia marked Victory Day with a parade, Germany Chancellor Olaf Scholz said the European Union must not be intimidated by Moscow's display of military power, but continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Scholz also called for an enlarged and reformed EU that is more geopolitical in outlook and actions. He said the European Union needs to streamline decision-making on foreign policy and taxation and keep its promise to Western Balkan neighbors to let them join. Meanwhile, Putin on Tuesday said at Moscow's Red Square Victory Day parade that the world was at a turning point and claimed a war had been unleashed against Russia.
Uns nicht einschüchtern von solchem Machtgehabe. Bleiben wir standhaft in unserer Unterstützung der Ukraine so lange.
A small South Pacific island boomed with song as hundreds gathered for King Charles' coronation, a momentous occasion for villagers who believed his father was a local deity. The volcanic island of Tanna in the south of Vanuatu is the cradle of the Prince Philip movement, which claims the late royal patriarch as a long-lost ancestor. A world away from the coronation pageantry at Westminster Abbey, some 1,000 islanders gathered in the lush rugged highland to mark the coronation. The verdant hills rang with polyphonic harmonies as men, women, and children, all clad in grass skirts or gauds, skipped through the village in joyous display of song and dance.
From beginning lo Phyllis Charles Nyabi Lucas lo Charles.
Now, George Santos, the Republican U.S. representative whose term in Congress has been marred by scandals over a series of lies, was arrested in New York on federal criminal charges. Santos faces 13 charges including wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and making false statements to the House of Representatives, the U.S. Attorney Office for the Eastern District of New York said in a press release. The freshman representative was elected to Congress last year, but it was later revealed that much of his campaign was based on falsehood. Santos falsely claimed to have worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, though there is no evidence he worked at either organization. Now, claims that he holds degrees from New York University and Baruch College were also refuted. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said he will accept Sunday's vote results and step down if he loses, refuting concerns that he may not leave power. We'll be going on a break, and when we come back, War Stories continues.
Hey, let's get to advertise your products and services on our platform. Viewer Television is here to give your business a boost with a touch of professionalism. If you're a brand owner, entrepreneur, proud business owner, let's place your business in the face of your customers. Contact us so we can talk business on 081-2121-2278 or info@viewertv.com.ng. Always remember, we are here for you.
Before you came round, my heart would never beat like
The story of a charmer and his crush.
Before you came round, I was ready to slow down. Before you came round, I was heading for a small disaster. Before you came round, I was ready to blow me down.
Tat Fragrance, the new luxury fragrance for men and women.
Welcome back to World Stories on VR Television, where we'll bring you a summary of the top stories around the globe through the week. Now, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said he will accept Sunday's vote results and step down if he loses, refuting concerns that he may not leave power. Erdogan gave the assurance in reaction to the question of whether he will cling to power if he loses. He advised the opposition to deploy people to monitor the election. The Turkish president believes that he will be re-elected for another term as well as secure a parliamentary majority on Sunday. After 20 years at the helm of Turkey, Erdogan faces his toughest election test amid public resentment over economic troubles and the handling of February earthquakes and about 3.5 million Syrian refugees. Still, Turkish presidential candidate Muharrem İnce said he is withdrawing from Sunday's election, citing slander and heavy criticism. Ince was one of 4 candidates for the presidential election, but with polls showing him hovering around 2% of the vote, the 59-year-old was never a true contender. At a news conference on Thursday, Ince said he decided to quit following a smear campaign that used fake images of him having affairs with women and painted him as corrupt and wealthy. Ince also said he was withdrawing so the joint opposition table of 6 coalition could not blame him if its candidate Kemal loses. A recent poll showed Kemal 5 points ahead of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Thailand's Progressive Move Forward Party claimed victory in the country's election after a result that decimated military-backed parties that ruled the kingdom for nearly a decade. A stunning surge for the upstart MFP in Sunday's ballot left it on course to be the biggest party, followed by its rival opposition, the Pheu Thai movement of billionaires ex-Premier Takish Shinawatra. MFP leader Peter said he would seek to build a 6-party coalition including Pheu Thai. The 42-year-old said he had called on Shinawatra Pheu Thai's lead candidate to be prime minister to congratulate her on the campaign and invite her to join the coalition.
For all, whether you agree with me or you disagree with me, I have congratulated Kun Pae Tongtan from Pheu Thai for her hard-fought campaign and have invited her to join the coalition. And that includes 5 more parties in the previous opposition.
Now, former President of the United States, Donald Trump, has moved to appeal a New York jury's verdict that held him liable for sexually abusing and defaming writer Jean Carroll. Last year, Trump was sued by the former Elle magazine columnist for defamation and battery. This was after the New York State Adult Survivors Act took effect and gave victims of sexual assault a 1-year window to sue their alleged abusers decades after the attacks may have occurred. Trump had vehemently refuted the allegations, tagging the suits in a scam and Carroll a nut job. Following the weeks-long trial, a 9-person jury reached a decision finding Trump liable of sexual assault but not rape. He was also found liable for defamation after calling her claims a hoax. U.S. President Joe Biden has nominated Philip Jefferson to the number 2 job at the Federal Reserve, a position left vacant since Lyle Brainard left for the White House in February. If confirmed, he will take over as a vice chair at a crucial time for the Fed, which has raised interest rates 10 times since last year as it looks to tackle above target inflation. Biden also taped current World Bank Executive Director Adriana Kugler to serve as a Federal Reserve Governor and renominated Lisa Cook to serve a full-term 14-year term as a governor at the bank, the White House said in a statement. And if confirmed, Kugler will become the first Hispanic American to serve on the Fed's governing body and would have a key role to play in settling the benchmark interest rate. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected in Rome on Saturday for talks with his Italian counterpart Sergio Mattarella, with a meeting with Pope Francis. Also possible, it will be the very first visit by Zelensky to EU and NATO member Italy since Russia's invasion in February 2022. Vatican source disclosed earlier that a meeting between Zelensky and Pope Francis was also possible, although this has not yet been confirmed. Zelensky is also expected to meet with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who visited Kyiv in February to show her country's support for Ukraine, although her office has not been confirmed. Despite a history of warm ties with Moscow, Italy has sent weapons and money to help Kiev and backed Western sanctions against Russia. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan was granted bail by Islamabad High Court on Friday after his arrest on graft charges this week sparked deadly clashes before being declared illegal. Khan was manhandled into detention by paramilitary troops at the court on Tuesday, but the Supreme Court later declared the arrest unlawful and demanded the process be backtracked. On Friday, after arriving back at Islamabad High Court in a secure convoy and walking into the building flanked by dozens of police and paramilitaries, he was granted bail. The Interior Minister has pledged to rearrest Khan, who has become tangled in a slew of legal cases, a frequent hazard for positioned figures in Pakistan, since he was ousted from power last April and launched a campaign of defiance against military. Thousands fled Myanmar's west coast, and officials in neighboring Bangladesh raced to evacuate Rohingya refugees on Saturday as the most powerful cyclone in the region for over a decade churned across the Bay of Bengal. Cyclone Mocha was sparking winds of up to 220 kilometers per hour, 136 miles per hour, according to India's meteorological office, equivalent to a Category 4 hurricane. It is expected to weaken before making landfall on Sunday morning between Cox's Bazar, where nearly 1 million Rohingya refugees live in camps largely made up of flimsy shelters, and Sitwe on Myanmar's western Rakhine coast. Shops and markets in the town of about 150,000 people were shuttered, with many locals sheltering in monasteries. Myanmar Airways International said all its flights to Rakhine State had been suspended until Monday. The United Arab Emirates has invited Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to the COP28 climate summit it is hosting at the end of the year, possibly placing him in the same venue as the Western leaders who have opposed and sanctioned him for years. The invitation was extended by the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, Syrian state news agency SANA reported, after the UAE embassy in Damascus tweeted the same. Fellow Arab states are warming up to Syria again after isolating Assad for over a decade following his deadly crackdown on street protests that spiraled into a brutal civil war. Bilateral diplomatic relations wrapped up in the wake of the devastating February 6 earthquake that hit Syria and Turkey. Then last week, the Arab League readmitted Syria, and Saudi Arabia invited Assad to the League summit in Jeddah on Friday. Poland has received its first shipment of US-made HIMARS rocket launchers as part of the defense upgrade amid security concerns due to the war in neighboring Ukraine. Defense Minister Mariusz Blaszczak and military officials attended an acquisition ceremony at a Warsaw air base on Monday. Blaszczak said combat in Ukraine has been proven the value of the HIMARS and that NATO members Poland was seeking to procure additional launchers with the goal of acquiring some 500 units. Under a 2019 contract, Poland is spending some $414 million to buy 18 advanced combat HIMARS launchers and 2 HIMARS training launchers with ammunition and related equipment. The deal includes logistics and training. The launchers will go to the 1st Artillery Brigade in northeastern Poland, Mr. Blaszczak said. And that's all on World Stories. Many thanks for watching. I am Debranda Kaife. Please stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs.